What is going on? It is Nate the Game Guy coming back with another video. And guys, I am a very passionate game collector. And I think that's no secret to anybody that's clearly watching this video. There are a ton of reasons why I love being a game collector. However, right here in this video, I'm going to share you guys a few reasons why, even though I love being a game collector, these are not the reasons as to why I love being a game collector. I thought this would be a relatively interesting topic to discuss and talk about. So here we are right here with this video, uploading it right here for you guys to kick back, watch, listen, and enjoy. So without further ado, let's dive right into this video subject and take a listen to some of these reasons that, even though I love being a game collector, they're not for the reasons that I'm about to share right after the intro. Now, I think I'm going to start this video off by talking about the fact that even though I do enjoy collecting video games, I don't collect them for the reason for investment. So what am I talking about? There are some people out there that buy video games for the purpose of investment, where they will buy a game or multiple games for that matter, or will go into the hobby of video game collecting, hoping for video games to go up in value over time and of course make a little bit of a ROI on that. And of course, right here in this video, I'm not planning to badmouth anybody who collects video games in one way or another right here in this video. But what I am going to discuss about are just things that, even though I'm a game collector, I don't collect for the reasons that I'm going to be mentioning right here. I'll give an example, right? One of the reasons why I personally don't collect video games for the purpose of investment, right? It is definitely true that there are games that do go up in value over time and all that wonderful stuff, but I would say that there are way more video games that do go down in value over time too. And of course, some of those usual suspects happen to be like old sports games, that kind of stuff. But of course, there are exceptions that you'll see right here in a moment. But I'll give an example right here as to one of the reasons as to why I don't collect video games for investment. Take this for an example right here, NCAA Football 14. This was a very sought after game several years ago, and like I said, this was one of the exceptions of used sports games that surprisingly went up in value. Now, what happened was there was eventually a new NCAA football game that was eventually announced and released, and since this was the final NCAA game in the series for a while, this actually made the price of the game go from like $140 complete in box to, if I remember correctly, about $60 complete in box. So if you are banking on keeping this game for the long haul, hoping for the value to go up, and up, there goes that, right? And to me, I don't know. I just kind of view the idea of collecting video games as just kind of a bad idea if you're going to use it for investing purposes, just because of situations like that. Now, my personal take with game collecting and all that is, even if video games were very, very cheap, and I mean they were essentially almost worthless or whatever, like paperweight, I would still be in this hobby. It's just because I really enjoy collecting video games and playing them. Sure, I may not play every single game that I have in my collection, but of course, if I wasn't a gamer, I wouldn't be in this hobby at all. But I have to say, I think this is a good place to start off right here in this video. Now, I also think it's worth mentioning right here in this video is the fact that even though I love collecting video games, I don't collect video games to compete with other game collectors, right? It's definitely true that I became a game collector because I I found the hobby one day on YouTube many, many, many years ago, right? And I was, of course, very thankful in the long run to finally be introduced to this hobby. And I've also had a lot of fun and spent a lot of money, a lot of time, just pouring myself into this hobby, right? And I will say there are some game rooms and some channels out there which, I'm not gonna lie, I wish I could be just like. When CJR, when he had his old game room, before some things that happened with his personal life, I gotta say that was one of my personal favorite game rooms of all time. There's Metal Jesus. Another favorite game room of mine and game channel I like is Gamer Aimer, right? There's a bunch of them out there. I'm not going to name every single one right here in this video because we'll be here for a little while. But what I will say is the fact that yeah, even though I do look at other channels and other collectors for ideas and inspirations, I don't try to compete with any of them. I think if I try to compete with any collector out there, I think I would no longer enjoy the hobby and it would take away some of the fun and the happiness of what originally made me a game collector in the first place. The truth of the matter is, a lot of these game collectors, they all have different opportunities that come up that one collector may have compared to another collector or they may not have, right? And I think because of those circumstances, it's worth to think about, right? I think, in my opinion, it just doesn't make sense to try to compete with anybody when it comes to game collecting and all that. I used to have a little bit of a rut at one point several years ago where sometimes I would not necessarily say I was jealous, but just kind of look down at myself as like, oh, I wish I had a game room this big or had this many games and all that. And I think that was just a very unhealthy mindset to have at the time. And I'm so thankful that I am past that. But I will say right here that I think competing with other game collectors is just not a good approach when it comes to game collecting for my personal taste in things. Now, of course, I think it is worth mentioning right here, and again, I'm going to be the broken record and say this line right here, and the fact is, even though I love being a game collector, I'm not a game collector because this is my only hobby, right? It's one of my hobbies, but it's not my only hobby. Of course, right here, clearly you could see this is my favorite hobby. Of course, I think it makes sense for anybody, right? Like, if you have a favorite hobby, whether you're collecting or, you're into cars or you like fishing or hunting or whatever the case may be, right? It only makes sense that your main hobby or your favorite hobby happens to be the one that you spend the most time with, the one that you put the most amount of money into. That's essentially my game room and my game collection. There are other hobbies that I enjoy outside of the game room. Obviously, I enjoy fishing and golfing. I'm a big music connoisseur, love different kinds of movies and all that, right? So obviously I have other interests besides video games. But I will say right here, it is, as mentioned from before, my favorite hobby and all that. Of course, if it wasn't my favorite hobby, I wouldn't be having a YouTube channel dedicated to game collecting in my game room and all that, right? And, like I said, I love being a game collector, but of course, having it be the fact that it's my only hobby that I'm into, that's not the reason why I'm a game collector. But I will have to say, I do think that is something worth sharing and talking about right here in this video. Hey guys, thank you so much for checking out my video. Please be sure to check out these videos here, here, and here. After all, I post a lot of content when it comes to game collecting tips, and other video game related subjects. So be sure to keep an eye out every Monday and Friday where I upload consistently, and I'll be seeing you guys next time.